Close your eyes for a second. Imagine waking up, and before you've even opened your eyes, someone is already washing your hands. Not because you asked, because it's their entire job to make sure you never have to ask for anything. That's not a fantasy. That was Tuesday, for 15 different people, in 15 different empires, across 4,000 years of human history. You're about to become each of them, one throne at a time. And by the end, you'll understand exactly what it costs to sit in one. Egyptian pharaoh. You open your eyes, and the smell of incense is already in the room. 2 priests are pouring water over your hands before you've even sat up. Nobody asked them to. It's simply understood. Your body isn't entirely your own anymore. It belongs to Horus, living inside you, and everyone around you treats it that way. Outside your window, thousands of workers are already at the quarry, cutting stone for a tomb you won't see finished for decades, a home built for the version of you that hasn't died yet. You raise a hand, and a war begins over a bad harvest 3 provinces away. You raise it again, and a man loses his tongue for saying your name wrong in the marketplace. And when you finally do die, they won't rush. 70 days. Your organs removed one by one, your body wrapped in linen, sealed beneath enough gold to fund an army, because to everyone who serves you, this life was only ever the warm-up act. Babylonian king. You stand before a stone slab taller than any man in your kingdom, and carved into it, in careful lines, is every law you've ever passed. Nobody in your empire can claim they didn't know. An eye for an eye isn't a saying here, it's read aloud, in public, as an actual sentence handed down in your name. Beneath your city, canals branch out like veins, and every one of them answers to you. Anger the wrong noble, and his fields simply stop getting water, no army required, just a closed gate somewhere upstream. They say you built terraced gardens that seem to hang in the air, because a wife of yours once missed the green mountains of her homeland, and you decided homesickness was a problem an empire this size should be able to solve. Power, in your hands, was never just soldiers. It was being the one person whose word could redirect a river, or someone's entire life, without lifting a weapon. Persian king of kings. You sit on a throne built to be seen from every corner of the hall, and no one in the room is standing at your eye level, literally. Every visitor kneels, because staying upright in your presence uninvited has ended people's lives before. Your empire isn't one nation. It's dozens, stitched together, Egyptians, Babylonians, Greeks, each keeping their own gods and customs, as long as gold keeps arriving on schedule. Outside, a message written this morning is already racing toward the far edge of your empire, carried by riders on a road system so efficient it'll take other civilizations another 2,000 years to build anything close to it. You call yourself King of Kings. It isn't a boast. Actual kings walk into your throne room as equals and walk out as your subjects, and somehow, they keep coming back. Spartan king. You were tested before you could talk. Elders examined you as an infant, deciding whether you were strong enough to be allowed to grow up at all, and you passed, which is the only reason you're standing here now. Every boy in your kingdom is taken from his mother at 7 years old and taught one lesson above all others: pain is not a reason to stop moving. You don't build walls around your city. You don't need to. Your only defense is 8,000 men who've spent their entire lives being told that retreating is a word they're not permitted to use, even in their own heads. You feel it in how people look at you, not admiration exactly. Something closer to caution, the way you'd look at a fire that's currently behaving itself. Roman Emperor. You lift one hand in the Colosseum, and 50,000 people erupt at once. Lift it differently, on a different day, and 50,000 people start dying somewhere on your next monument, and nobody calls it a tragedy, they call it a Tuesday. The senators bowing in front of you right now are, several of them, quietly working out how you might be replaced. Poison isn't a conspiracy theory in your kitchen. It's practically a job description. You can adopt your own successor the way someone might pick a favorite, no bloodline required, just your word. You can declare yourself a living god, and half your empire will build you a temple without blinking. But you already know the number, even if nobody says it to your face. Nearly a third of the men who sat where you're sitting were murdered while they still held the title. Your crown came with an expiration date. You just don't know the exact day yet. Viking king. Your throne isn't inherited quietly. It's held by whoever can still lift a sword when the challenge comes, and the challenges come more often than you'd like. There's no palace wall between you and your warriors. You drink beside them in the same longhouse tonight, the same men who'll follow you onto a longship tomorrow, and who could just as easily decide you're not worth following anymore the moment you look weak. Your wealth isn't sitting quietly in a vault. It's silver taken across gray water, one raid at a time, and your name is only as good as your last voyage. Dying quietly in a bed of old age, surrounded by soft blankets, that's not the ending anyone here is hoping for you. Dying with a weapon still in your hand is the version that actually gets remembered. Mansa of Mali. You are, by some counts, the richest human being who has ever lived, richer than anyone before you, richer than anyone who's come after. Gold and salt move through your empire like blood through a body, and every route belongs to you. On your journey to Mecca, you bring so much gold with you that entire cities' economies bend around your arrival. The value of gold itself drops in places you pass through, and takes years, sometimes over a decade, to recover. Back home, in your capital, Timbuktu, you're funding libraries and universities that scholars will travel across deserts just to study in. Your problem was never having too little. Your problem was learning to carry that much wealth through the world without accidentally breaking every economy you touched along the way. Aztec Emperor. Your capital rises out of the middle of a lake, connected to solid ground by causeways your enemies would have to cross in full view of your warriors. There's no sneaking up on you here. Conquered cities send you tribute on a strict schedule: food, goods, captives. Miss a payment, and your armies arrive to remind them why that was a mistake. In your world, religion and rule are the same job. Priests need captives for ceremonies your people believe keep the sun itself rising each morning, and constant, deliberate warfare is how you keep supplying them. And yet your city has running water, floating gardens stretching across the lake, and more people living in it than most cities in Europe at that exact moment in history, built by a civilization most of the world outside it doesn't even know exists yet. Sapa Inca. They call you a direct descendant of the sun itself, and your empire stretches along more of a single mountain range than any other empire in the Americas has managed, before or since. You have no written language, and you don't need one. Officials across your empire read knotted cords called quipu, tracking harvests, taxes, and populations across thousands of miles of terrain most armies would consider impassable. Your roads climb mountain passes higher than anything Roman engineers ever attempted, and relay runners can carry your word hundreds of miles in a matter of days. When you die, nothing about your life gets handed down the way you'd expect. Your palace, your servants, your entire household stays yours, forever. Your successor has to start over and build his own from nothing, because even in death, what's yours remains yours. Mongol Khan. You built the largest connected empire the world has ever seen, stretching from the edge of the Pacific to the doorstep of Europe, and you did it almost entirely on horseback. Your riders can cover more ground in a single day than most medieval armies manage in 3, because each of them carries multiple horses and barely stops to rest. You didn't burn everything you conquered. You took the engineers, the scholars, the doctors, and folded them into an empire that connected trade routes more completely than anyone before you. But mercy, in your world, has terms. Cities that surrendered quickly were often left standing. Cities that resisted became a warning other cities could see from miles away, a lesson you never had to repeat twice in the same region. Chinese Emperor. You are the son of heaven, and that's not just a title, it's your entire justification for existing on the throne. A famine, a flood, a rebellion. All of it gets read as a sign that heaven itself might be reconsidering its choice. Beneath you sits a bureaucracy so vast that men spend years of their lives studying just for the chance to serve inside it, an exam system so effective, other civilizations will still be copying pieces of it centuries later. Your empire stretches walls across thousands of miles, links entire river systems with canals, and runs on court rituals so precise that one wrong bow at the wrong moment can end a man's career on the spot. You don't just rule a country. You rule the idea that your dynasty is the center of civilization itself, right up until, eventually, heaven's mandate always seems to find its way to someone else. Japanese Shogun. The emperor sits on the throne. You hold the actual power. Every soldier, every governor, answers to you, not to him. Your loyalty runs through the samurai class, warriors raised from childhood on a code that treats death as more honorable than disgrace, and obedience as something closer to identity than duty. Beneath them, an entire society is sorted into place: samurai, farmers, artisans, merchants, each level knowing exactly what it owes the level above it, all the way up to you. Your power doesn't need to be loud to work. An entire nation can run for centuries on quiet, absolute obedience and a code of honor nobody dares question out loud. No crown required, no throne room necessary. Medieval European king. Your right to in the room is quietly convinced they'd wear it better than you do. Ottoman Sultan. Your empire touches 3 continents, and your capital sits on the exact seam where Europe and Asia meet, a city built for exactly this kind of power. Some of your most trusted soldiers and officials were once slaves, raised from childhood for one purpose, serving you, with no family ties competing for their loyalty. It's one of the strangest, most effective systems any empire has ever built. Muslims, Christians, and Jews all live under your law, each community managing its own affairs, all of them ultimately answering to you. And inheriting this empire was never guaranteed simply by being born first. In some generations, your brothers don't survive your rise to the throne, because in your family, the crown doesn't go to the oldest. It goes to whoever's still standing when the dust settles. Zulu King. You take a small clan and turn it into the most feared military power in southern Africa, and you do it by changing what a battle even looks like. Your soldiers no longer throw their spears from a distance. You put a short stabbing blade in their hands instead, forcing every fight into brutal, close-range combat that your enemies have never had to prepare for. You reorganize your entire society into age-based regiments, so loyalty flows to the kingdom itself, not to whichever chief happens to be popular that year. In just over a decade, you reshape an entire region of the continent, proof that the rules of power were never permanent. Sometimes, one person just rewrites them, in a single lifetime, faster than anyone thought possible. 15 thrones. 15 versions of the same question, asked in 15 different languages, across 4,000 years. What would you actually do, if nothing could stop you? Some of them built libraries that outlasted their empires. Some of them built fear so total it outlived them by centuries. Every single one of them, eventually, had to hand it all back, to the next person willing to sit down in that same chair. So, out of all 15, if you had to sit on just one throne, for just one day, which one would you actually choose?